Hi, my name is Ishika, and this is my positivity channel, I think. I'm in a class called The Science of Happiness at NYU, and when I was at NYU, I used to rant to all my friends about how great this class was, and I used to tell them all this cool stuff that I learned. And I can't do that anymore, so here's my version of being able to show you and tell you all the cool things that your brain and positivity can do. So I already put up the next 2 episodes for all of you that are new, because we ran into problems with the intro. So this is me refilming for the 3rd time. So the next 2 videos are kind of boring, but from now on, on the 4th video, you're gonna see this really nice background. Welcome to my channel. I hope you enjoy. And we're gonna start talking about well-being today. In The Science of Happiness, we talk a lot about the power of positive psychology. And positive psychology was created by this really cool man at UPenn, and his name is Marty Seligman. Marty Seligman is known as the father of modern psych because he looked at psychology not from a negative point of view, and I'll explain more, but he looked at it from a positive point of view. He was like, if people can learn not to be depressed, why can't we learn to be happy? And post-World War II, I think this wasn't really talked about that much because a lot of people were focused on trying to, cure PTSD. And then after World War II, they were like, hey, why don't we study positive people and what makes them tick? And that's exactly what he did. And that's why he's known as the father of modern day positive psych. With positive psych, it's really cool because it has a lot of advantages. You can reap the benefits if you just reframe your mindset to be a little bit more positive. So you can really change a lot of the stuff around you and make it work for you. So for example, people who had a first heart attack were reevaluated to see if they were optimists or pessimists. And it turns out the people that were pessimists actually had an 86% more chance than optimists who had a 33% chance of getting a second heart attack. Just because they thought positively. Obviously there are other factors at work, but the main one was because of their mindset. If you're really negative, that negativity actually shows itself in your body because you're always hurting yourself mentally. You're also hurting the people around you mentally and emotionally. And so that's why it comes in the form of a second heart attack. If you were an optimist, you were 33% likely to get a second heart attack, whereas the pessimists had an 86% chance. And so, since Marty Seligman works at UPenn, they did a study on the kids at UPenn, and they wanted to see if positive psychology had any effect on their grades. And it turns out it did. So for those that were using positive psych, sometimes unknowingly, some of them knowingly, they actually had a 4.0 average GPA, whereas they had about 17 kids that were pessimists, and they had about a 3.0 GPA. It's really interesting that even in grades, positive psychology can really affect your mindset and exactly where you want to go, exactly where you want to be grades-wise. In addition to positive psychology, if you focus on your strengths, you have a 73% more likely chance of being engaged in the activity. If you keep putting yourself down and you focus on your weaknesses, you really have a 9% chance of being focused on an activity. And this includes school. If you really want to be engaged in history, and history is not your strong suit, or any other class, maybe it's English, maybe it's math. If you constantly focus on the fact that you're really bad at math, you're not gonna really like math. But if you try your best and try to be hey, I'm good at multiplication by double digits. At least I'm really good at that. And hey, I don't exactly understand calculus, but I do know pre-calculus like the back of my hand. That will help you focus on your strengths more than your weaknesses, and you'll be able to do much better in the class just because of your mindset. And this is really true in a lot of schools. That's why if you try to uplift yourself in other places, you'll be so much more successful. So another thing we talked about is exemplars. An exemplar is someone who deserves to be imitated or copied. And for a lot of people, these are huge celebrities. Athletes, also successful millionaires, billionaires, writers. A lot of times people distinguish themselves from these really successful people. They're like us and them. It's the rest of us ordinary people, and then the really talented people are in their own circle. And that's really not the case. If you take a step back and you reflect on what brings you happiness and what you really like to do, there really is no us and them, because the difference between us and them is they focus on their strengths. You know, J.K. Rowling is really good at writing, and even if she was in a really bad place, but she didn't put herself down, she actually used her love for writing to create Harry Potter, and then she became really successful. Same with Michael Phelps. I mean, he definitely did, like, you know, really bad some days, and some other days he did really well. But if he focused on his strengths instead of his weaknesses, he was able to bring home all of those gold medals for us. And so really, there is no us and them. If you want to become them, you really just have to focus on what makes you happy, and where you feel really engaged, and then bring your passions to the forefront of your life. Make it something that you really want to focus on. And if it's like filming, if it's you know, talking to your friends, try to do that a lot more, and you'll feel like much happier with your life. And I'm not saying take this away from your study time, but if you can carve out 15 minutes to do something you really like and focus on your passion, chances are you'll become really good at it, and then the talent that you have will show itself and it will prove itself, and you may be able to take it onto your future job for what you want to do. The cool thing about this class is that I learned a lot that can be applied to my own life, and I really wanted to share this with a lot of my friends. So something that we learned on the second day of school, second day of class, was that caffeine really helps your recall in the morning, especially in adolescence. So they did a study where the darker portion of this graph is those that were caffeinated, and the lighter portion is those that were uncaffeinated. And the darker portion did really well on a test, whereas the the lighter version was really, like, they didn't do as well. They did well enough, but they did not do as well as they could have done as their caffeinated counterparts. So it's really cool that you can use caffeine to your advantage. So if you have an early test in the morning, you can really take caffeine and it'll really help your recall. Versus if you do it in the afternoon, it's just not as helpful. It won't be as strong. There won't be that much of a difference, as you can see in the graph. There's really not that much room between the caffeinated and decaffeinated people. You really don't have to have it unless you're, like, you know, really feeling sleepy. And caffeine can come in all forms. Tea is a big one, coffee also, but don't have too much coffee because that can also make you jittery. And I have chocolate that has some espresso beans in it. It's another form of, you know, caffeine. I like chocolate, so it's a lot of happiness in my day when I have chocolate. So on the second portion of this graph, there's a part of an exercising, and you can see if we compare caffeine and exercising, the caffeine bar is a lot higher than the exercising bar. So there's a lot of people who think that your recall can be increased if you have a quick run in the morning or if you stretch. So while that helps, caffeine can also be used as a quick fix if you don't have time for a run or stretching, or you're just like me and you're lazy as hell, so you just don't want to run in the morning. Yeah, so caffeine can be a great fix for that too. But those of you that are exercising, good for you. Your life's on the right track. We all look up to you and admire you. Keep going, we're all rooting for you. So, I went off on a tangent about the people who exercise in the morning, and we all look up to you. My point is, you shouldn't depend on caffeine to boost your recall. You know, exercise in the morning is great for you, and if you can fit a few minutes of stretching in, do it. It's great, and you shouldn't replace caffeine with exercising. That's not a good idea, ever, and that's not what I'm trying to say. But, you know, for those of you who exercise in the morning, we all want to be like you. 5-10 years down the line, I'm sure you're all thinking about getting married with a special someone. If you're not thinking about getting married, well, this doesn't really apply, but the future's the future, so I'm going to go and tell you anyway. I took a study of US citizens over the age of 18, and they asked them to write a few words about their marriage. And this study was conducted over a couple of years, and so they did a follow-up years later. I think the follow-up was 15 years. And so those that said that they were happily married, and I quote, "They were healthier and lived longer than those who are not married, divorced, or widowed." And then if you look at the bottom, those people that describe themselves as unhappily married, as they were not happy with their marriage, they were twice as likely to report poor health and 40% more likely to die. So, if you're unhappily married, I'm sorry. I want you to be happily married. Everyone wants to be happily married. But I think the science behind this is that when you're unhappily married, you're fighting often, right? You're also not communicating as well. And all of these burdens start to gnaw away at your relationship, and they gnaw away at you. And so it will manifest itself physically, and that's why a lot of people had heart attacks. They would have poor health, and they would eventually just perish because, you know, they were just not happy. Quick Star Wars reference to that marital thing that I was talking about. Padme literally dies over a broken heart. She was unhappily married at that point. She was like, alright, I'm just gonna die now because there's no reason for me to live. She would fall into the unhappily married sector. So if you really want to know what happened, she died because of a broken heart, and it's true. Because your unhappy marriage can kill you. I'm dropping facts.
She died because of childbirth.
She died because of childbirth?
Maybe. I think it was partial.
But also, she died of a broken heart, man. The science is here. The science is...
I take full credit for that reference.
Hi, I really hope you liked this video. I had really a lot of fun making it. Thanks for Conrad for helping me out with everything. Also this wacko setup. I really had fun doing this because I have all this stuff from my dorm room just sitting around, so I might as well make it into a cutesy background so y'all don't have to see my bedroom every single time. Because it's a mess, like usual. I know, I'm gonna clean my room, Mom, I know. So I think that's what I'm gonna leave you with. Please leave me any comments or suggestions you have, because I'm always welcome to those. Obviously be nice about it. So I think that's it. Bye! Everyone, meet my dog. Her name's Kit Kat. She doesn't really know what's going on. So she's like, why am I here? Yeah, so I'm gonna put her here. But if you have pets, I want to see you guys. Also, shout out to Rishi for being my camera guy. Also, I have a really weird setup. It's really ridiculous looking. We're using a step ladder. Quarantine!